Often you'll see me talk about the propaganda war perpetuated by the Islamists with respect to how the psyche of the Islamist operates. Now today I'm going to talk about it with respect to specifically the Karpman drama triangle. I've talked about it before. I've talked about how the psyche of the Islamists works. I've talked about the propaganda war. I've talked about debunking Islamophobia, the term Islamophobia. You can go check it out. Today I want to talk about it specifically with respect to the Karpman drama triangle. Now, the drama triangle, you have three sides, obviously, in the triangle. You have on the top the oppressor. The oppressor in this case is the Islamic regime occupying Iran. The victim in this case is first and foremost the Iranians situated within Iran, followed by the Iranian and Jewish diaspora, and of course Israel. And then after that, followed by that is really all infidels and kuffar around the globe. So you have the oppressor and the victim, which is quite obvious. What I want to talk about is the savior and how the dynamic between the oppressor and the savior operates such that the propaganda war, the narrative war from the Islamist end is able to be advantageous. They're able to win the propaganda war. The savior in this case is both the woke Marxist left and the woke neo-Nazi right, and how the Islamists are able to attract both the woke left and the woke right to come on their side. Here's one particular example today. Within the space of literally days, we have seen regime spokespersons talk about, on one hand, Iranian patriotism, Persian civilization, whilst at the same time talking about Islamic resistance and the Islamic Ummah and all that sort of stuff. Those two are literally adversaries of one another. We have seen clerics on end, specifically the supreme leaders of the Islamic regime, talking about how Islam comes first, nationhood and patriotism is last, the Ummah is the most important thing in the world, and really within the Islamic doctrine, nationhood and patriotism is haram. It's a form of asabiyah, which essentially means tribalism. Any form of nationhood and recognizing a sovereign state is actually non-existent in Islam. It's either you're within a land of war, Dar al-Harb, or a land of Islamists, Dar al-Islam. You have had these two coincide with one another. Why does the regime do this? They do this depending on what the global messaging is. So they will use the messaging of Iranian patriotism to attract the appropriate audience to their side. The Islamic regime are now a bunch of Iranian patriots. They're fighting for the nation against the Jewish supremacists, whilst at the same time, they're talking about the Islamic Ummah, the Islamic resistance, which is obviously attractive to the Muslim population of the world. For the Marxist left, we all know they love the Islamists because they're also opposed to this notion of Western imperialism, Zionist imperialism, Zionist colonization and capitalism. And on the woke right, the neo-Nazi right, you have the Islamic regime talking about Jewish supremacy, how the Jews run the world. Specifically, we have seen from the regime the use of the phrase, we've seen it so many times, Epstein class. Right? Everyone's talking about Epstein nowadays. So they're taking advantage of it. They're using it as a tool. They're using it as ammunition, as a weapon on their side to attract specifically the woke right to come on their side on that, the Epstein class. So the neo-Nazis, they're attracted to that. They love it. They're like, oh, these guys are talking about the Epstein class. Great, I guess we're on their side too. So really dependent on what the narrative of the globe is, the regime will manipulate that, will use it to their advantage in order to gain as many saviors as possible. Now, why are they saviors? Well, because both the Marxist left and the neo-Nazi right consider themselves as saviors, but they don't actually want to save the Iranian people. They are supremacists in their own respect. An individual who would come across as a humanitarian, anti-war, a pacifist, but they don't actually want to save the victims. They want the victims to remain as a victim such that they are perceived by the public in which they reside in as a savior. So they'd come out and say that the scapegoat in this case is the Jews, it's the Western imperialists, it's the capitalists, it's the Zios or whatever. But they're not interested in saving the victim. They're not interested in saving Iranians within Iran. So they will perpetuate that message. So that's why we call them a savior. It's a savior concept, but they're not actual saviors. And that's why we have this drama triangle that is a never-ending cycle. The victims will remain a victim because the saviors don't want the victims to actually be saved, and the oppressor will be ongoing in its really never-ending cycle of oppression against the victim. Don't fall victim to the propaganda war. Stay vigilant.